The Forbidden Mate. A Werewolf Shifter Romance Audiobook. Written by Clara. Chapter 1. The moment their eyes locked, a low, barely perceptible tremor ran through the floor, or maybe it was just Kael's internal tension. He stood by the massive, carved obsidian desk, the Volkov treaty spread out like a shroud. "You look, cousin," Varric drawled. His voice was thick, a low grating sound, like stones shifting in a dry riverbed. "Like you're signing your own death warrant." Kael, the Alpha King, didn't flinch. "It is a peace treaty, Varric. A means to preserve the pack. We lost too many in the last conflict. Because of that, the treaty is necessary." "Peace?" Varric scoffed, stepping closer. "You call trading our sacred borders to a rival pack peace?" "No, Kael. You call it surrender." Kael's gaze, a cold, Arctic blue, did not leave the treaty. "It is pragmatism. The Volkov forces are stretched thin, but then so are ours." He paused. "The cost of war, Varric, is too high. Our children would pay it." Deep down, he knew the truth. Varric wanted the war, and Varric thought he could win it and claim Kael's crown. "Children," Varric mocked. A soft sentiment. "The old ways, Kael, the true traditions, demand dominance. You've lost your edge, becoming a diplomat instead of a king. You are weak, and weakness invites invasion." "My strength," Kael replied, his voice dangerously low, "is measured by the lives I protect, not the lives I squander. This treaty secures a buffer zone. It ensures the blood stops flowing, and that is my only focus." Varric leaned in, eyes blazing with ambition. "Serafina Volkov, marrying the enemy. Is that dominance, or is that desperation?" "It is strategy, Varric. Serafina brings the backing of the Northern Elders. Her lineage guarantees stability," Kael stated flatly. More importantly, he needed Varric to think he was committed to Serafina. Kael dismissed Varric with a sharp wave. Without another word, Varric gave a mocking half-bow and vanished. Kael sighed, running a tired hand through his dark hair. He picked up a small, hidden journal. He reread the account of the final battlefield, trenches choked with young, frozen bodies. The grim horror of it hardened his resolve. War is not an option. He had chosen the path of pragmatic tyranny, and the necessary sacrifice was coming. He closed the journal, the snap echoing like a gunshot. Meanwhile, he could not ignore the faint, persistent anxiety that clawed at his chest, a feeling not tied to Varric or the treaty, but to something else entirely. The stage was set for the wedding, and he hated the cold knot of dread in his stomach. Chapter 2. Kael stood opposite Serafina, two rulers separated by necessity. Serafina wore robes of stark white and black, regal, severe. "Your terms are met, King Kael," Serafina said, her voice clear, musical, and utterly devoid of warmth. "The Volkov banners will fly beneath yours. For 2 generations, the peace will hold, provided your rule remains absolute." "It will. My authority is unquestioned." "Unquestioned?" Serafina tilted her head. "Rumors of your cousin's discontent reach even our distant territory. In fact, Varric's loyalists are not discreet. Our treaty is only as strong as your internal pack unity, and your unity, Alpha, smells fragile." Kael stepped closer, using his Alpha aura, a deliberate wave of cold, authoritative dominance, to check her assertion. As the air thickened, Serafina did not back down. "My pack's unity is guaranteed by my resolve," Kael insisted. "We follow law, not sentiment. I have purged the weaknesses. We focus only on survival, which meant making difficult, unpopular choices." Serafina smiled, a cold, calculating gesture. "Good. Then you understand that sentiment is a luxury. Our packs need a clear, uncontested union. There must be no distractions. Rather, only the future we have forged with this pact. The wedding date is set." "The alliance is sealed," Kael confirmed. "The only distraction here, Luna, is your doubt." Serafina's eyes narrowed slightly. But then, before she could move, a sudden, searing jolt shot through Kael's chest. It was a raw, primal sensation, like being struck by lightning, and it carried with it a powerful, intoxicating scent, sun-warmed honey and wild jasmine. It was so intensely hers, so overwhelmingly right, that Kael stumbled back a half step. Alpha. Serafina frowned. Kael masked the sudden terror with a low growl. Nothing. A momentary lapse. The fatigue of negotiations. Soon after, Serafina departed, her expression now one of icy curiosity. Kael was left alone, reeling. The feeling persisted, a desperate, painful magnetism in his core. What followed was a terrifying realization. The fated bond had chosen now to appear. He had to find its source and kill the threat it posed to his peace treaty before it destroyed everything. Chapter 3. Kael moved through the shadowed halls of the low quarter, his alpha senses screaming against the intrusion of the powerful, intoxicating scent. As the bond pulsed, the primal force grew stronger, hitting him with waves of pure adoration and protection. He hated the weakness. He rounded a corner near the servant kitchens. Lira Vancour was hauling a heavy wooden barrel of refuse. Her face was smudged with dirt, her simple beta rank visible in the drab gray of her tunic. In that moment, as their eyes locked across the short corridor, the world didn't just stop, it shattered. The mate bond didn't just snap, it roared to life, drowning out all sound. 1,000 images flooded Kael's mind, a shared future, the scent of her hair on his pillow. He was momentarily paralyzed by the truth. She is mine. And, just like that, everything changed. His mind, the ruthless political weapon, wrestled instantly with his instinct. She is lowborn. She is an omega/beta. War will come. That's why she had to be eliminated as a factor. You, Kael barked, his voice raw, coated in a terrifying, unleashed alpha dominance. Lira physically dropped the barrel. Lira stumbled back, her breath catching. Her voice trembled as she tried to apologize. And my king, I am sorry. I didn't see you. Silence. Kael's voice was like grinding stone. The alpha command crushed Lira's natural beta defenses, forcing her to kneel. He deliberately let his own raw, dangerous scent flood the small space, not the clean cedar of his control, but the sharp, metallic tang of his contained fury. You are clumsy, inefficient, and you reek of insubordination, Kael hissed, stepping over the spilled refuse, his boot nearly grazing her head. He had to make the rejection palpable. Report to the kennel master. You are confined to barracks until your discipline is reviewed. Not only that, but any attempts to approach the royal den again will result in immediate termination of your rank. He didn't look back. Without thinking, he strode away, the overwhelming, agonizing tug of the unbroken bond dragging at his retreating form. He pressed a fist against his sternum, the psychic agony almost unbearable. Meanwhile, he knew the flogging. Truth be told, that night, King Kael wept not for Lira's upcoming pain, but for the part of his own soul he was preparing to kill. Chapter 4. Guards were watching, and the news of his cold-blooded condemnation would spread through the pack by dawn. He had to prepare for. Kael stood rigid in the judgment chamber, his inner council gathered before him. Serafina stood to his right, regal, observant, and the silence in the room was absolute. The beta Lira Vancour attempted an act of treason, Kael stated, his voice flat, emotionless. He gave a brief, fabricated account of Lira attempting to pass sensitive border defense maps to a rumored rival faction. Because of that, the punishment must be swift and public. A low murmur spread through the room. Instead of shock, Kael sensed suspicion, and that chilled him more than any war cry. Treason? Elder Reese, an old-blood loyalist, frowned, his voice slow with doubt. She is a low-quarter beta, alpha. A cleaner. What access would she have to such high-grade intel? Her low rank was her weapon, Kael countered, leaning into the lie. It was the perfect deception. But then, her arrogance led to her capture. He locked eyes with Reese. The punishment will be public. Absolute rejection. The alpha must demonstrate that treason, regardless of rank, is met with unforgiving fury. This is the law. Serafina spoke, her voice cutting through the remaining doubt like ice. My people respect authority, not mercy. If this beta's crime threatens our security, then the response must be proportional. King Kael's justice must be absolute. Her endorsement was a shield. Not only that, but after the council was dismissed, Serafina remained. As the silence stretched, She crossed the chamber to stand before Kael. Her gaze dissected him. "You lie with conviction, King Kael." "It is necessary," she murmured. "But I sense a deeper cost here. I don't care about the servant, yet I care deeply about any chinks in your armor. If you falter tomorrow, if the pack senses any hesitation, then the treaty dies. The blood of your people will be on your hands, because the lie must be perfect." "It will be," Kael promised, his jaw tight. "Can a necessary lie, built on deliberate cruelty, ever lead to true redemption and peace?" The question haunted him. Meanwhile, he forced himself to move toward a heavy, leather-strapped trunk. He opened it, revealing the ceremonial flogger. He had to ensure this looked absolute. What followed was the sickening realization that the instrument of Lira's pain would become the eternal torment of his own soul. Chapter 5. The air was heavy, tasting of dust and anticipation. With every heartbeat, Kael felt the pressure of 1,000 eyes. His pack. His rival. Lira was already secured to the whipping post, her low-rank tunic stripped. Her back was exposed. Her breath caught as Kael approached. Even from here, the overpowering, magnetic scent of sun-warmed honey and wild jasmine slammed into Kael, demanding he tear down the post. Law. Duty. War. Kael hammered the words into his mind. He lifted the flogger. It felt cold. Heavy. Lira Vancour, beta of this pack, you are charged with high treason and sedition. Kael announced, his voice booming across the courtyard. I, King Kael, Alpha of the Ironwood Pack, find you guilty. The punishment is rejection and exile. You are banished. The first stroke landed with a sickening snap. Even so, the true pain was psychic. It felt like his own heart had been ripped from his chest. Kael forced himself to snarl, projecting a raw, visceral hatred. You are nothing, he roared, and the sound was so savage that the crowd recoiled. He continued the strokes, each one a calculated lie, carving scars into Lira's flesh. As the bond pulsed, Lira's agony became his, and Kael tasted blood, though none was on his lips. Despite that agony, he did not falter. He had to shatter her spirit, and he had to show the pack his king was capable of necessary cruelty. When it was over, Kael dropped the flogger. He stood over Lira's slumped, bleeding form. He placed his foot close to her, and his final command was a near whisper, amplified only by the horrifying closeness of the moment. You will carry these scars as proof of your weakness and my hatred. Never return. Lira was unchained, dragged away by guards. Kael watched her go. To make things worse, the agonizing tug in his chest did not lessen. It thickened, like a rope tightened around his ribs. The unbroken lie. The bond endured, trapping him, and he knew then that his sacrifice had only truly begun. Chapter 6. Kael walked away from the courtyard, the adrenaline draining, leaving behind only icy despair. But then, Varric appeared from the shadows, flanking him instantly. Magnificent, cousin, Varric said, his tone a mix of genuine respect and calculating assessment. The pack will not forget that display. A king who puts duty above every other instinct. Kael stopped, turning slowly. He saw the flicker of suspicion in Varric's eyes. Was there a need for such depth? Varric asked, his voice deceptively casual. A simple banishment would have sufficed. The beta was a nobody, so why the exhibition? The exhibition was for the pack, Kael corrected, his voice flat. It demonstrates that I will not tolerate any threats to the peace I have purchased with the Volkov alliance. The price for war is too high, and anyone who risks it, no matter their rank, will be eliminated. Not only that, but Kael used the lingering alpha adrenaline, pushing a sudden, overwhelming wave of dominance directly at Varric. Varric instinctively braced, unable to flinch. You question my methods, cousin. That is tolerable, Kael ground out. But if you question my authority, you will join that beta in exile or worse. The treaty is sealed. The Luna is Serafina Volkov. Swear your absolute, unquestioning loyalty to the peace and to her now. Varric's jaw worked, his pride warring with the direct alpha command. As the silence roared, Varric finally bowed his head, a gesture of absolute hatred masked by submission. I swear loyalty to the terms of the Volkov peace treaty and to the authority of King Kael, Varek recited, the words tasting bitter. Kael did not move until Varek had retreated into the shadows. In that moment, Kael knew he had won the political battle, but then the war of the heart had only just begun. He had purchased a fragile peace with an unforgivable lie, and that lie was now his crown. He stared at the spot where Lira had been. He could almost hear the echo of her pain, and he realized he was now living as a ghost, a king whose heart belonged to an exile. The years ahead stretched before him, a cold, dutiful ruler, haunted by the very connection he had violently rejected. Chapter 7. Kael woke alone, just as he had for 5 years. His first conscious thought wasn't duty, but the faint, deep ache in his sternum. A persistent ghost limb where the mate bond should have flourished. He was numb. He dressed quickly in his heavy, formal leathers. His body moved on instinct, practiced, mechanical. He stared at his reflection. The man staring back was King Kael, ruthless, successful, and empty. Despite that, the peace he had paid for felt brittle. It smelled brittle. Moments later, he was in the adjoining solar for the formal morning meeting. Serafina was already there, impeccably dressed. Their marriage was a political partnership, devoid of intimacy, which meant their conversations were always about strategy. The northern trade routes are down 6% this quarter, Serafina stated, placing a stark report before him. The local settlements near the Scarred Steppes report increasing bandit raids. Our security patrols are ineffective. Kael picked up the report. Bandits are an inevitability near the border. We will increase the patrols. Bandits do not operate with this level of organization, Kael, Serafina countered, her voice sharp. They are becoming a serious destabilizing force. In fact, I suspect this is less about bandits and more about Varek testing your reach. Kael felt a spike of anger. Varek, the ghost of his political life, always lurking. Varek swore loyalty, and he has honored the terms of the treaty. Serafina smiled, a chilling expression. He honors the letter of the law, because Varek understands that patience is a weapon. He knows the pack is growing restless with peace achieved through concession. What's worse, she added, he knows the people remember your display of cruelty from 5 years ago. He is counting on them valuing dominance over stability. Are you? After that, she pushed a newly arrived dispatch across the table. Deal with this, King. And do it personally. Your people need to see the king fighting their war, not just signing papers. Kael took the dispatch. The very name Scarred Steppes was like a whisper of the exile he had created. He needed to prove that his tyrannical pragmatism still worked. As the wind shifted outside the window, Kael felt a faint, wild yearning. It was time to leave the cage of the den. Chapter 8. The journey to the western edge was cold, hard, and blessedly silent. Come morning, they arrived at what used to be Outpost 7. It was a ruin. The wood was splintered, the blood was dry and dark. Instead of the chaotic damage of typical bandits, this wreckage spoke of military precision. The enemies weren't just stealing supplies, they were dismantling the pack's defenses methodically. Not bandits, Alpha, reported Guard Thane, examining the scorch marks. This was a coordinated attack. Well-trained, and they knew exactly where to hit the weak points. Kael felt suspicion and dread coil in his gut. Because of that, he had to prove it. He dismounted, walking the perimeter alone. He had to find evidence of Varek. He spotted it near a cluster of jagged rocks, a small, crudely carved iron fong emblem, scratched into the stone. Varek's signature. This was a declaration of war. Gather the remains. We move, Kael ordered, his voice tight. Just like that, as they prepared to leave, a high wind swept through the canyon. Kael paused. The wind carried a new scent, and the familiar, terrible agony of the mate bond flared in his chest. Her world tilted as the scent hit him, stronger than it had been in 5 years. Sun-warmed honey, wild jasmine, but then mixed now with the metallic tang of dried blood and the acrid smell of burnt sulfur. It was primal. It was powerful. It can't be. He tried to dismiss it, but then the scent clung to the air, pulling at him like an invisible chain. He realized the scent was coming from the direction of the attack's retreat, which meant Lira might not only be alive, but she was involved in the escalating border conflicts. The tension broke with a desperate thought. Is she hunting me? Or is she hunting Varric? He spun his horse, ordering the party to return immediately, the phantom ache of the mate bond guiding his fear. Chapter 9. Kael slammed the door to the council chamber shut. He laid the sketches of the outpost ruins and a drawing of the Iron Fang marker on the table. After that, he spoke, his voice ringing with alpha urgency. This is not banditry. This is organized insurgency, Kael declared, pointing to the evidence. Varric is creating a vacuum of security on the steppes, and he means to use it to destabilize the treaty. Varric, seated opposite, didn't even glance at the evidence. He merely steepled his hands. Instead, he offered a condescending sigh. Such melodrama, cousin, Varric said. A few raids, a few ambitious young wolves. The treaty still holds, because the Volkovs are cautious. But why focus on such petty crime, when the stability of your marriage is the greater issue? Varric turned to the other elders. The Volkov trade concessions cost us more than these raids, and Princess Serafina has been too lax in enforcing our territorial waters. Is the king so focused on a few thieves that he neglects the bleeding heart of our economy? Kael felt the political ground shift beneath him. Varric wasn't denying the threat, he was redirecting the focus. He was making Kael's wife, the key to the peace, the scapegoat. The raids are a clear military threat. Kael stressed, trying to pull the discussion back. They're minor irritations. Varric shot back. The real irritation is a king who sacrifices tradition for a foreign treaty. The people ask, is the peace worth the humiliation? Will Kael ever be the alpha we need, or just the diplomat we settled for? No matter how hard he tried, Kael couldn't regain control of the room. The elders looked worried, swayed by Varric's easy logic. As a result, Kael was forced to concede the budget discussion to Varric's camp. Kael left the chamber defeated. He retreated to his private study. Still, the phantom scent of honey and jasmine was stronger than ever. Lira. If she was truly out there, strong enough to survive, and now drawing the attention of Varric's war machine, then she was no longer a ghost of his past. She was an unexpected variable in the coming conflict. He reached for his ceremonial knife, the steel cold and familiar. He had to prepare for a different kind of war. Chapter 10. The commotion started as a distant, defiant roar, and it drew Kael instantly from his study. He arrived in the courtyard like a shot of black lightning. What he saw stopped him dead. A challenge. 6 of his best border guards, strong, loyal warriors, were scattered, disarmed, and rubbing various non-lethal wounds. And standing untouched in the center, radiating a raw, untamed power that was utterly intoxicating, was Lira. She was a new creature. 5 years ago, she was a frail beta servant. Now, she stood like a lone wolf, her tunic stained with mud, her stance wide and aggressive. The scent of honey and jasmine was overwhelming, but then mixed with the sharp, clean scent of pure alpha challenge. Kael's blood boiled, a mix of panic and territorial rage. Trespasser. Kael roared, unleashing an alpha command designed to flatten an enemy. Loud, forceful, demanding submission. Identify yourself and submit. Lira did not submit. Instead, she raised her chin, her amber eyes that Kael had tried desperately to forget, locked onto his. With a single glance, she made a mockery of his authority. I am Lira Vancour, she stated, her voice clear, strong, and totally calm. I am the exile you cast out. I returned because I track the threats your peace treaty ignores. Kael's mind raced. Varric will hear this. Serafina will see this. You are a criminal. You forfeited your rank. Lira took one step forward. That was all. She slowly raised her arms, making no aggressive move, but then deliberately shifted her tunic, exposing her back to the stunned pack. What followed was the revelation, the scars. The deep, white welts from Kael's flogging were still starkly visible, the scars of the unbroken bond, a testament to his cruelty. Just like that, she challenged his lie with silent, visible strength. Kael felt his facade cracking, the shame and the fierce, protective surge of the bond nearly crippling him. She didn't need to speak the truth. Her scars screamed it. She is beautiful. She is stronger. And she is my undoing. Kael knew he had to silence her, but he couldn't touch her without revealing the raw power of the bond. Chapter 11. Lira stood unbound before the seated council, flanked by 2 guards who shifted uncomfortably. Kael sat on the high alpha chair, Seraphina beside him, watchful. The air was thick with the scent of beta-omega defiance and alpha anxiety. "The charge of treason stands," Kael said, his voice clipped and sterile. "Why have you returned, Beta, to violate the terms of your exile?" Lira did not address the charge of treason. Instead, she looked directly at the council and then directly at Kael. "I return to state a fact. King Kael sentenced me to death and shame because he believed it was necessary for his peace," Lira declared. Her voice was steady, unwavering. "I carry the scars as proof of his absolute dominion. But I stand here today, unclaimed by the bond's strength. I am alive and I am stronger than the man who sought to destroy me." Emphasis on stronger. Seraphina gave Kael a warning look. Meanwhile, Varek, seated opposite, leaned forward, his eyes alight with malicious triumph. The Beta survived the king's justice, which meant the justice was merely a display, Varek purred, addressing the council. It was cruelty without consequence. Does our king use the tools of power to protect us, or to indulge his momentary frustrations? Rising inflection on the final question. Kael felt the sting of Varek's accusation. Cruelty without consequence. Deep down, he knew the truth. He had been cruel for the right reasons, but then the effect was the same. Seraphina intervened, her political instincts sharp. "The king has the right to use any measure necessary to secure our future. The Beta survived, so she has proven her resilience, not the king's weakness." She shifted the narrative. "She is a known destabilizer. What does she want now?" The rules are political," Kael insisted, struggling to project authority against the tide of his own primal desire. He was furious at her calm. 1. You will not leave this room without my explicit escort. 2. You will speak only when spoken to, and only about the investigation. 3. You will not, under any circumstance, mention the mate bond or my name in any context other than king. Despite that, Lira stepped closer, the scent of jasmine a warm, dangerous cloud around him. Her eyes, amber flames in the dim light, challenged his. The space between them burned. "My rule is simpler, Alpha," Lira countered, her voice dropping to a low, husky register. 1. We deny the bond publicly. 2. We use the bond privately. You need my awareness of Varek's movements, and that awareness is amplified by the connection you tried to destroy. Kael grabbed her arm, a frantic attempt to create a barrier. "Don't you dare." "I dare everything," Lira interrupted, leaning into his hold. "You need to know where the raids are coming from, and I need to know why. If we deny the bond now, then we deny the only chance you have to survive Varek's rise. More importantly, you will not stop the raids without knowing the enemy's scent." Kael let go of her arm as if it burned him. He stumbled back, hitting the frame of the connecting door. Just like that, Lira had taken control. "Begin compiling your intelligence," Kael bit out, retreating into his own room. He slammed the heavy door shut, and the noise echoed like a gunshot. He pressed his back against the wood, fighting the powerful, agonizing need to reopen it, and roar mine. Chapter 14. That night, the study felt too small. Kael sat at the heavy desk, Lira across from him. The pretense of distance was shattered by the need to lean over the same hand-drawn maps of the steps, their shoulders occasionally brushing. With his scent in the air, Kael found it impossible to focus on strategy. He watched Lira's hand trace the paths of the unknown attackers. Instinct, not logic. "The border wolves are strong, but then they are messy," Lira murmured, her breath warm against his ear as she leaned in. "These attacks are different. Look at the retreat path near the Volkov border. It's too clean, too precise. It's not the scent of Varek's hotheads. It's colder." Kael inhaled sharply, trying to catch the phantom scent of the attackers from the reports she was touching, but then all he could smell was Lira. "I need to feel the trail," Lira whispered, and without warning, She placed her hand directly over the spot where the mate bond connection pulsed in Kael's chest, a dangerous, deliberate move. As the bond pulsed, a sudden, violent sensory flood hit Kael. He saw, felt, and smelled the retreating forces, the heavy, sulfurous stench of gunpowder, the sharp metallic scent of their armor, and an underlying, faint musk that tasted like a foreign, disciplined pack. They move like shadows. Kael gasped, reeling from the shared data. Not wolves, too structured. They're military. And they aren't Verex, Lira finished, withdrawing her hand quickly, leaving Kael shivering. In the quiet that followed, the reality of the threat and the reality of their connection was undeniable. Why do they smell foreign? Kael asked, his voice rough. Because they are, Lira whispered, looking up. Verek is distracting you, but then the real enemy is a pack from beyond the borders. A cold pack. Kael stared at the map. Volkov. The treaty. Serafina. Just like that, everything changed. The peace was a lie. He had betrayed Lira, sacrificed his mate, because he thought he was protecting the pack, but then the true enemy was disguised as his Luna. Chapter 15. The realization of Serafina's potential treachery, the Volkovs and their cold pack, hit Kael like a physical blow. He felt stupid. He felt betrayed. He felt furious at the political machine that had ruined him. His gaze snapped from the map to Lira. She was sitting close, watching him, sensing the earthquake of his internal collapse. In that moment, he didn't see the beta servant, nor the political liability, but the only truth, the only real thing he had touched in 5 years. He lunged forward, not like a king, but like a starving wolf. Her world tilted. He cupped her face, his thumb brushing the line of a scar near her temple, and his mouth crashed down on hers, desperate, consuming, demanding. The kiss wasn't tender, it was a desperate confession, 5 years of denial, agony, and the raging, unbroken mate bond unleashed. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, Lira didn't resist. She met his passion with equal, shattering intensity. Her hands went into his hair, pulling him closer. The scent of their mingled anguish and passion filled the room, a scent of broken vows and impossible reconciliation. Then, as abruptly as it began, Lira broke the kiss. She pushed him back hard, her chest heaving. Her breath caught. No, she gasped, her voice raw, her eyes flashing with pain and residual desire. Her voice trembled. You do not get to use the mate bond like a weapon, Kael. You don't get to hurt me for 5 years and then claim me in a moment of panic. Kael was breathing hard, shaking. Before the words left her lips, he wanted to pull her back, to crush her body to his, to complete the connection. The game has changed, Lira whispered, forcing herself to stand, imposing a final, painful distance. You betrayed me for a political marriage. You will not save yourself with my desperation. You want my help? You want to touch me? Then you must earn my forgiveness, and you must first face the enemy you brought into your bed. Kael knew he was defeated, but then also newly motivated. The path was clear. He had to destroy Serafina's lie, and then he had to destroy Verek. The fate of his pack, his throne, and his true mate now depended on his ability to embrace the war he had tried so hard to avoid. Chapter 16. The study air was thick. Cedar, fear, and the agonizingly close scent of jasmine. Since the kiss, Kael and Lira maintained a rigid distance, their eyes meeting only over the sprawling maps. The pattern is undeniable, Lira stated, tracing a line to the Volkov border. Foreign wolves enter our territory. They hit settlements Verek strategically weakened. Then they retreat. Serafina's pack is our true enemy. Kael felt cold. I need undeniable proof, Lira. The council will dismiss mere scent patterns. I found the proof. Lira countered, pushing the foreign map toward him. This was left at Outpost 7. Volkov military coding is clear. Verek's wolves were careless. They missed it. You must charge Serafina with treason. Kael picked up the map. This was it. The point of no return. He would lose the treaty, the political stability, possibly his life. Verek must be dealt with simultaneously. Kael dictated, low and firm. He is the opportunist who sacrificed our people. When I face Serafina, you expose Varek. I am still your prisoner, King. Lira reminded him, the bitterness clear. How will I appear at the council to accuse your own cousin? You won't. Kael reached into his sleeve, retrieving the Alpha's eye, a subtle recording device. You will be hidden. Broadcast the evidence, Volkov's attack and Varek's negligence, directly to the council and the pack outside. Lira looked at the device, then back at Kael. You trust me with your life, and then you place me in the mouth of the wolf. If this fails, they will kill us both. If this fails, Kael stated, we deserve it. Now, we plan the route, you need a distraction. As the plan unfolded, they leaned in, shoulders touching. The electricity snapped between them, sharp, painful. Before either could pull back, Kael felt the world tilt, an agonizing flash of pure, unbroken mate recognition. Both were left breathless. The bond refused to be ignored. It demanded they acknowledge their true position, not king and prisoner, but alpha and mate, standing shoulder to shoulder against the world. Chapter 17. Kael strode into the council chamber, the Volkov map hidden in his armor. The atmosphere was charged. Varek's political manipulation felt heavy. Kael moved directly to his throne, ignoring Serafina. She sat perfectly composed in the Luna seat. The recent raids are not mere banditry, Kael declared, his voice ringing with absolute, forced authority. They are military incursions. I have proof. He pulled out the map, slamming it onto the table. This map uses foreign military code. Volkov defense coding. I accuse Serafina Volkov, my Luna, of treason. She has been orchestrating these attacks, destabilizing our borders to allow her cold pack entry. A wave of shock rippled through the council. Varek's face was a mask of calculated surprise. Serafina remained perfectly still. A chilling calmness. Instead of defending herself, she smiled, cold and sharp. Such accusations, King Kael. Serafina's voice was smooth, dripping with concern. They are desperate. They are tragically unstable. Elders, look at him. His behavior is erratic. He accuses the family that brought him peace. She stood, placing her hand gently on Kael's arm, a gesture of false, wifely devotion that made him want to shift. My husband has become distracted. Obsessed, in fact, with the ghost of the low-ranked beta he banished 5 years ago. He is seeing enemies where there are none, endangering the treaty with his madness. She then aimed the ultimate political dagger. He has allowed the exiled criminal, Lira Vancour, into his most private chambers. If there is a destabilizer, elders, it is the king, the one who cannot control his dangerous obsession with the woman he claimed to hate. Kael felt the room turn against him. The pack loved stability, not drama. His political footing was lost. Serafina had cleverly shifted the focus from her treason to Kael's perceived madness and his damning physical proximity to Lira. Chapter 18. I am mad. Kael bit out, his voice shaking with controlled rage. You're the traitor who risked our pack. Varek seized the moment, rising with false concern. This is not the king we need. He is compromised. I call for an immediate vote of no confidence and challenge for the Alpha title. Shouts of agreement began to rise from the elders. Serafina gave Kael a pitying, victorious look. It was over. Then a loud, high-pitched static. It interrupted the proceedings. Then came Varek's own voice, amplified through the Alpha's eye, broadcasting to the entire den. Let them burn. Let the Volkov dogs thin the herd on the steps. Kael's weak peace will cost him his throne. The recording was clear. Damning. Absolute. Silence descended upon the chamber and the courtyard. Every head turned to Varek, whose composure finally cracked, his face pale with shock and fury. Before Varek could recover, the door burst open. Not Kael, it was Lira. She was no longer the prisoner. Or the servant. She was a warrior. She lunged, tackling Varek across the floor, disabling him with terrifying speed. Her scars flashed beneath her torn tunic, a visible sign of the price paid for this truth. Varek uses the Volkov's blades to kill our people. Lira roared, her voice raw, directed at the entire pack. He wanted King Kael to fall. Varek struggled beneath her, howling. You lie, exiled filth. You were banished. Kael stood, ignored by the pack, who were focused entirely on the spectacle, Verek's treason, Lira's primal defense. He watched Lira fight, beautiful, fierce, his. Lira looked up at Kael, pinned Verek beneath her knee, and issued the final challenge, her voice carrying the full weight of the mate bond. King Kael. The lie is shattered. The traitor is bound. Choose now. The false peace with the enemy Luna, or the truth of your pack and the woman you tried to destroy. The pack was silent. Seraphina was cornered. Verek was subdued. Kael's future, the pack's future, depended entirely on his next word. Kael looked at Seraphina, then down at Lira. Her eyes were filled with pain, defiance, agonizing hope. The cold grip of political duty finally vanished. It was replaced by the primal roar of the alpha within. She is my mate. Kael thundered, his voice cracking the council chamber's stone. She is my Luna. I choose the truth. Chapter 19. She is my mate. She is my Luna. I choose the truth. Kael's declaration thundered, a primal, shattering roar. He advanced on Seraphina, his alpha strength no longer restrained. Instead of flinching, Seraphina gave a sharp, terrifying laugh. A predictable, pathetic choice, King, she sneered. You choose the criminal over the treaty. Therefore, you choose war. Volkov guards, dressed in distinct, cold-pack armor, flooded the chamber from concealed doors. Chaos erupted. Kael shifted instantly, a blur of black fur and muscle. His first shift in the den in 5 years. He lunged, a whirlwind of fury aimed at Seraphina. She met him not with fear, but with practiced, lethal coldness, drawing a silver-tipped dagger. Meanwhile, Verek, seeing his last opportunity, broke free of Lira's initial hold. He charged Kael from behind, drawing his own blade. Traitor! Verek screamed, high-pitched and manic. You sacrifice us for a whore's lie. Lira, still human, saw the silver flash. She moved with impossible speed, intercepting Verek. The blow struck her, not Kael. A gasp of pain tore from her lips, and then a raw, unadulterated snarl ripped from her throat. The mate bond flared to life, not as a gentle pull, but as a weapon. The pain amplified, and then Kael felt the power surge through Lira, forcing a partial shift. Lira's eyes glowed gold, her hands curled into powerful, tearing claws. She didn't rely on skill. She relied on primal, protective fury. Lira shoved Verek back with impossible strength, then turned her raw fury on the surrounding Volkov guards. She was a devastating distraction. Kael used the chance, disarming Seraphina. He backed her against the wall, his massive wolf face inches from her human one. Tell your cold pack leader their cover is blown, Kael growled, the sound deep and guttural. Your treaty is worthless. Leave this den now. Seraphina knew defeat. She spat at his massive jaw, but gave a curt nod. She was dragged away by her remaining guards, her cold eyes promising an eternity of revenge. The den was secured. The Volkov threat neutralized, but the cost was visible. Kael shifted back instantly, his gaze flying to Lira. She was swaying, clutching the wound Verek had inflicted, her breathing ragged. The battle was won, but the true cost was just beginning. Chapter 20. Kael carried Lira into his chamber, the connecting door now irrelevant. He laid her gently on his massive bed. He didn't call for a healer, he needed this intimacy. The wound was deep, but not fatal. He knelt beside her, his hands trembling as he stripped away the tattered fabric. As his hands touched her skin, the mate bond, now fully awakened, surged between them, a violent contrast to the clean cut of the silver blade. The silver, it slows the healing, Lira whispered, her voice weak. It hurts, Kael, it hurts so much. Kael's throat was tight. He didn't speak. Instead, he leaned forward, pressing his warm, pulsing palm directly over the silver burn. He poured his alpha healing essence and his guilt directly into her wound. I am sorry, Kael rasped, the words tearing from his soul. I should have let Verek kill me. I should have died 5 years ago, before I hurt you. I chose the throne over our life. I chose fear. Lira's hand weakly reached up, her fingers tracing the healed scars on his jaw. You chose fear, but you chose life for the pack, Kael. Her eyes were filled with unshed tears. I survived the shame, but I almost died of the loneliness. 5 years, you felt it too, didn't you? Every second, Kael confessed, burying his face in her neck, inhaling the dizzying, healing scent of honey and jasmine. It was cold, only cold. I am nothing without you. Please, Lira, forgive me for the cruelty. I forgive the king who chose duty, Lira whispered, pulling his head up so their eyes locked. But the alpha who hurt his mate, he must earn his way back to me. She kissed him, this time not with desperation, but with solemn, painful sincerity. It was a covenant, a promise of a future built on truth. The kiss was slow, tender. The pain was still there, but it was eclipsed by the powerful, electric thrum of their fully realized bond, healing, demanding, and utterly complete. Chapter 21. 2 days later, the den was stable. Serafina and Werewolf were imprisoned, awaiting exile. Kael, physically weary but spiritually whole, stood before his council and the pack. Lira, still pale, stood at his side, visible, proud, and wearing no crown, just her identity. I stand before you, not as the diplomat, but as the alpha of the Ironwood pack, Kael declared, his voice strong, authoritative, and free of the 5-year-old lie. I committed an act of public cruelty 5 years ago, and I betrayed my mate. I did it for peace, but I achieved only a dangerous, temporary lie. He gestured to Lira, letting his pride and devotion show. The woman I banished for treason returned to save us from the real traitors, Werewolf and the Volkov Cold Pack. He took Lira's hand. This was the moment. I reclaim my mate, Lira Vancour. She is the strength of this pack. She is your Luna. My rule will no longer be built on fear or sacrifice, but on truth and unbroken honor. A wave of acceptance, mixed with awe, rose from the crowd. They saw the truth in his eyes, and they smelled the undeniable power of their bonded alpha pair. The pack was theirs. Kael looked down at Lira, a flicker of genuine warmth replacing the coldness of years. The war is over, mate. Lira squeezed his hand, a small, victorious smile touching her lips. No, Alpha. The war is just beginning. Now we build the peace together. The epilogue has been optimized to provide a satisfying, intimate conclusion, focusing on the emotional healing and the complete establishment of the reclaimed mate bond. Emphasis is placed on tender, slow pacing using ellipses and gentle punctuation. Chapter 22. 1 year had passed. 1 year of true peace. Kael watched Lira from the doorway of the Alpha study. She wasn't wearing a crown, but she held the room with quiet, confident authority, advising the new Beta Council on rebuilding the border towns. She was Luna, and she was the pack's heart. The study felt different now. Gone was the stale scent of duty, replaced by the vibrant mix of Lira's wildness and his own grounded cedar. The walls seemed less cold. This is what a home smells like, Kael thought. After the chaos, Werewolf and Serafina had been permanently exiled, their political influence dissolved. The pack, initially stunned by the revelation of the truth, had rallied to Kael and Lira, recognizing the strength of a leader who chose honesty over the convenient lie. Kael stepped fully into the room. The meeting instantly concluded. The Betas rose, bowing deeply to Lira, not just Kael. They respected her strength. Lira turned, a genuine smile lighting her amber eyes. The new fortifications are underway, Alpha. The peace is taking root. The peace is you, Kael corrected, crossing the room in 3 long strides. He stopped, not touching her, but then allowing the warmth of their bond to bridge the small, intentional gap he always left between them. A gesture of respect. Lira reached out, gently placing her palm over his heart. It took 5 years of cold to appreciate the fire, she whispered. I don't regret the price, Kael. Because of that, we learned how strong we truly are. Soft, gentle delivery. Kael closed his eyes, inhaling her scent, the constant, comforting truth of his world. Stronger. They were finally stronger. Chapter 23. The air in the bedchamber was thick with unspoken desire. Lira lay on her side, watching Kael as he extinguished the last lamp. The low light softened the angular lines of his face. Kael got into bed, turning immediately toward her. He reached out, his hand instinctively tracing the faint, residual white lines of the scars on her back, running his fingertips over the scars of the unbroken bond. "I still see it," Kael murmured, his voice heavy with residual guilt. "Every time I touch you, I see my cruelty. I see the price." Lira gently took his hand, pulling it around her waist, drawing him closer until their bodies aligned. Her world tilted toward the comfort of his warmth. "They are not the mark of your cruelty, Alpha," Lira whispered, turning in his arms to face him fully. "They're the mark of my survival. They're the proof that our bond cannot be broken by shame or silver or lies." She kissed his jaw, tracing the path of his earlier rage and pain. "I kept the scars, Kael. I want you to remember the cost. But then I want you to use that memory to build a kingdom where that cost is never paid again." Her touch became bolder, moving down his body, a silent invitation that was both deeply intimate and authoritative. "You earned my forgiveness, Alpha. You chose me over the crown. You chose truth. Now, you claim the mate you sacrificed." Kael felt the last lingering barrier of political restraint shatter. This was not desperation, it was permission. He looked into her eyes, seeing only love, acceptance, and a fierce, matching desire. He claimed her, gently at first, and then with the powerful, overwhelming certainty of a fated alpha who had finally found his way home. The shift was complete. The bond screamed joy and release. The scents of cedar and jasmine merged in a final, perfect, harmonious claim. Later, Lira lay nestled against Kael's chest, listening to the deep, steady rhythm of his alpha heart, no longer cold, no longer frantic. "Safe. Thank you, mate," Kael whispered, burying his face in her hair. "Thank you," Lira replied, her voice soft with contentment. "The scars remain, but then the bond is unbroken." Chapter 24. The western steppes, once scarred by war and neglect, were now green and bustling. The new king and Luna walked among the rebuilt homes, welcomed by their strong, healing pack. Kael kept Lira close, his hand resting lightly on the small, significant curve of her lower back. They paused near the river where Lira had once faced exile. Now, the air smelled only of fresh pine and the constant, comforting blend of their bond. "The work is good, mate," Kael murmured, looking at the thriving community. "This peace, it is real." Lira leaned into his shoulder, her laughter soft. "It's real because we built it on truth, Alpha. Not on sacrifice." She looked down at the slow swell of her belly, placing Kael's hand over it. A powerful, protective instinct surged through Kael. "He already smells like trouble," Kael whispered, his voice thick with emotion. A protective growl stirred in his chest. "He smells like both of us," Lira corrected gently. "Strong like his alpha father, but then stubborn like his Luna mother." Kael turned her fully in his arms, mindful of their precious cargo. He stared into her amber eyes, seeing their entire tumultuous history reflected there. "I tried to break the bond to save the pack," Kael confessed, for the 1000th time, his voice softer than a breath. "Now, the bond gives us the future." Lira reached up, placing her hand where his heart beat strong and steady. "The scar is only a lesson, Alpha. The bond is forever." She smiled, a look of profound, gentle tenderness. "We will teach him the difference, Kael. We will teach him that truth is stronger than fear." Kael lowered his head, not for a demanding kiss, but for a tender joining of their foreheads. The simple act sealed their promise to the pack, to their son, and to each other. The scars of the unbroken bond were now a legacy of love, forged in fire, standing strong beneath the twilight sky. Chapter 25. It was midday and the den was bustling, but then their chamber was a pocket of absolute silence. A sanctuary. Lira was asleep, curled against Kael's side. He wasn't asleep, he simply held her, content to watch the sunlight streak across the floor. He ran a fingertip over the faint, smooth line of the oldest scar on her back, the one closest to her spine. No pain pulsed through the bond now, only a deep, resonant hum of contentment. No more cold. Kael's internal world was permanently remade. The weight of the crown was still heavy, but then Lira's presence made the responsibility bearable. Lira shifted, sighing lightly into his chest. After that, she woke, not startling, but then surfacing slowly from a safe, deep sleep. "Alpha," she murmured, her voice husky with sleep, yet playful. "You're watching me again." "Always," Kael whispered back, his breath warm against her hair. He kissed her head. "I need the reminder that you are real, that we are safe." "We are safe," Lira confirmed, her voice strengthening as she repeated the truth they had fought for. She lifted her hand, placing it squarely on his chest, right over the steady, slow thump of his heart. "The pack is safe. He is safe. We are finally free of the lie." Kael closed Dia's eyes, inhaling the sweet, perfect blend of jasmine, cedar, and the new, precious, milky scent of their sleeping son nearby. The ultimate, undeniable proof of their forever. "Forever," Kael agreed, the final word settling into the silence like a promise etched in stone. He tightened his embrace, pulling her closer, ready to face the world, but then only after one more, slow, lingering moment of perfect, unbroken peace. The end. Thank you for watching. Folded hands if you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. We've got lots more great content coming your way. See you in the next one.